Hello everyone, it's David from Automotive Press. Guess what I have this week? I have the Ford Bronco Sport in this amazing heritage color combination. In fact, this particular color is called Robin's Egg Blue. And I kept thinking, what the heck is that? Well, it turned out that American robin, which is a bird, have eggs that's exactly like this. It's kind of light pastel blue. And so that's why this color is called the Robin's Egg Blue. But it looks pretty cool with a 1966 style Ford Bronco, which is the original Ford Bronco, and this package and this color combination is designed to reflect that generation or that first generation Ford Bronco. And I'm going to be doing this in a kind of live stream style. So if I make a mistake, I'm going to just keep on talking, and that way you'll get more of my first impression view. And it's going to be more of the style that I used to do as an engineer, when a whole bunch of engineers will get together around the car and we just talk about it for many hours. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk for many hours with you, but the idea here is to give you my first impression and to give you my true feeling. And I'll just keep on talking. If I make a mistake, I'll apologize in advance. But hopefully this way I can be more open with you and tell you exactly how I feel about this Ford Bronco Sport. As usual, let me start off with my measurement of the gaps and panel alignment and see how good the manufacturing quality is on this Ford Bronco Sport. Once again, I do want to emphasize that this is not the Ford Bronco. It has some of the styling traits, shares some of the design theme, but this is not body on the frame like the Bronco. This one is unitized body or monocoque body, so it's based more on a regular Ford SUV. Anyway, let's measure the gap over here, which is a bit hard to measure because this hood is a kind of clamshell style and goes over the front fender, but I can still try. And it's 4 millimeter here, 4 millimeter here, and 3.8. So the gaps are actually pretty good for something that doesn't cost too much. And between the front fender and the front door is 3.9, and this is 4 millimeter, and this is 3.9. So the gaps are pretty consistent for those of you who are wondering if the quality of the exterior panels are any good. Let's do one more measurement here in the back, and that's 3.7. So all the gaps are pretty consistent, about the same as typical Toyota cars. If you were to look at a Canadian built or American built RAV4, the gaps are about the same, about 3.8 to 4 millimeter range. And what about the alignment in terms of how the panels come together and align together? Once again, I'm actually pretty impressed. I didn't think the Ford has some of the best quality in terms of exterior panels, but on this particular Bronco, excellent. I don't see any kind of misalignment, especially around the gas cap. This is where many manufacturers kind of mess up. They can't get the alignment done right, but you can tell it is perfectly flush and nothing sticking out, so it looks really good. What about the paint job? Same thing. Once again, this color is called the Robin's Egg Blue for this heritage package. There are a few other colors available too, but this is a beautiful color. It's not for me, but I do admit it looks great on this Ford Bronco Sport, and the color is very consistent and not too much orange peel on this paint, and the reflection of the paint also looks good. The clear coat itself also looks pretty sharp. So overall, in terms of exterior panels, surprisingly good. Let's just take a quick look inside in terms of quality as well, and I'll also do the paint thickness gauge as well. And this one is made in Mexico. It does just says manufactured by Ford Motor Company, but this one is actually built in Mexico City, and the quality is really good. Even when you look at the door and see how it's actually hemmed the steel panels and then put the sealant together, it's super clean. Usually the quality of the paint and the stamping is not all that great inside the door, but this one looks really good. Let's take a look inside to see how the quality is. And just going to do a quick check on the quality of the plastic parts to see if there's anything loose. I didn't feel any squeaks or rattle, but I do have to admit that this plastic part looks kind of cheap. This is also semi-hard plastic, and you can see the seam here. So it's not so much the manufacturing quality, but maybe more of a design. I think it wasn't a good idea to put this gap right here. It looks like it's not quite fitting right. Having said that, the stitching here looks good, and the overall design is fine, but this is a pretty small screen. I believe it's 8 inches. That's a bit small for a car that cost almost $50,000 in Canadian price. And there's some plastic trim that looks okay from this angle, but if you look at it from the passenger side, you can see a bit of a gap. So the overall quality for inside is okay, acceptable. I wouldn't say it's great, but part of this might be due to design flaw or design issue as opposed to manufacturing issue, because some of the parts have a little bit of too much gap, and that just might be due to the way they designed that particular part. So otherwise, I like the interior. It's very user-friendly. It's open here, lots of cubby holes and places to put things in. Decent sized center console. The seats are very comfortable, and while it's not the roomiest compact SUV, it's got plenty of space and good supportive seats as well. So I actually don't mind the interior as well. Let's measure the paint thickness, then we'll pop the hood, take a look underneath the hood, and we go for a drive. So let's take my paint thickness gauge and we go back outside. Again, I'm doing this live stream style, so you'll just see me continuously talking, and if I make a mistake, I'm apologizing in advance. Let's measure the paint thickness to see how it is on this Bronco built in Mexico. 236, that is surprisingly thick. Let's try one more time here. 175, so sometime the machine might misread based on where I measure. So we try resetting this one more time, and I'm gonna start one more time right in the middle. 200, so 175, 200, 200. So that seems to be the correct thickness for the hood, which is surprisingly thick. 199 here, 175, and 192. So these are in microns. Typically, you want the paint thickness to be between 100 to 150 microns. Thicker the better in terms of durability, because thicker paint allows for better long-term durability. So I do like the thicker paint. Apologize that there's an airplane going above, so it's a little bit noisy. But 200 microns, that's almost unheard of for a car in this price range. Usually they're about 150 microns at the most, typically 125 or less for Toyota cars, because they tend to have a slightly thinner paint. But this particular Bronco has a really thick paint. It might be due to this heritage package. Maybe they have one more layer of paint, or maybe extra thick clear coat, I don't know which, but either way, I like the fact that it has really thick paint. And as I mentioned, the paint job has a minimal orange peel, which is surprising because many vehicles in this price range have excessive orange peel, which is that texture of a orange skin. But this one is pretty smooth and paint job looks really good. What about some of the plastic components outside? Does it look okay? I think, again, it looks a little bit cheap, some of these gaps here, but maybe simplicity isn't a bad idea for this type of car in this price range. Even the wheels here, this is actually aluminum, but it looks like a steel wheels, so that's kind of interesting. You can see the interior here, they actually covered up really well with the padding. So I think that in terms of engineering wise, I don't mind the design. You can see the bump up here a little bit to give you extra headroom. And this combination of white roof and this beautiful blue color and the stripes and the white wheels, wow, it definitely gets attention everywhere you go. People haven't seen this vehicle in this color combo, and this kind of reminds me of many cars in 1970s and 80s. Even some of the older Land Cruiser had this combination, so that's a really good color. Now let's pop the hood and let's take a look what's going on underneath. So now I just popped the hood and the sun came out, so you might see some difference in lighting condition here. But this one is a 1.5 liter turbocharged engine, but it's a 3-cylinder engine. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, like a GR Yaris in Japan has a 3-cylinder engine too. But it does look small, and it doesn't say anywhere in here or in typical literature there's a 3-cylinder engine, because I think they don't want people to know. Obviously, this EcoBoost engine is using other Fords as well, so it's not unique to Bronco Sport. And it has pretty good pep, 181 horsepower, has a really good torque at the lower RPM, and it feels just like any other 4-cylinder engine actually, so I don't see any problem with the design. But you can tell because it's a 3-cylinder engine, it doesn't occupy a lot of space in the hood, so there is lots of space in here. But a couple of things to notice is that just like in Toyota, there's lots of paint marks to indicate correct manufacturing installation. Sometimes they do a quality check and they'll put a paint marks on it, but unlike Toyota, these paint dabs are pretty messy. In Toyota, it's a fine paint, almost like artistic work, but here it's like a kids just dabble the paint on it. So not that that's a reflection of the quality of the manufacturing, but there is some difference. Also, I noticed that just right here, the fender inside here has a black kind of black material to protect from debris, but I didn't realize that this is it. There's no steel panel right on top of the wheels. This particular black material, which is like a sound deadening material, is just what's keeping the engine compartment separated from the wheel underneath. So I found that design to be a little bit surprising, but otherwise the interior is pretty good. To open the hood, you pull it twice, and there's no latch to undo here as well, so that's actually a preferred way. And everything looks simple. You can tell even here this front fender doesn't have a lip to fold. It's a straight piece material, and maybe that kind of adds to the nostalgic feel, because the whole design looks simple, which gives it kind of a real heritage feel to the design. So I really like that. Now let's go and take a look at the back of the car as well, and then we can go for a drive and see how this vehicle is in terms of driving. I like that they labeled door and glass, and it's unusual for a car of this size to give you option to only open the glass. That's actually a really good feature. I wish more compact SUV had that, because most of us don't need to open this entire lift gate in the back to take things in and out. Sometimes we just need to open this to grab something quick. But it does mark a door here as well, so I can push that, which makes it easy to find the button. And I got a bunch of stuff in here. But what I want to show you is that this one has a hard shell, which you can fold, and therefore you can divide the cargo into two sections, the bottom part and the top. And I really like this idea of having the shelf here, but I wish they made it non-slip. I made this comment a couple of years ago when the Bronco Sport first came out, but this should have been kind of a rubberized material, so that when you put something on top, like this one, it doesn't slide all over the place. So I would say that's one thing that I wish they did. We do have a rubber mat here on the bottom, so that's definitely non-slippery type material. But if we can have something similar on top of the shelf here, that would be ideal. Otherwise, the trunk capacity is not bad. You get this extra mat, which is optional mat in the back. And then what about the rear space in terms of passenger area? It's acceptable, about the same as any other compact SUV. I've got the front seats set to my height, which is just 5'8". I'm not tall, but actually the headroom is really good. Once again, because of that bump on the roof, you can tell it goes up here, and there's tremendous amount of headroom. Not so much legroom, but you can actually open this zip here to put something inside, which is cool. And you get on both sides. Many manufacturers only put on one side. It does have this part which is kind of caved in a little bit, but still not too much leg room. The seats are pretty comfortable though, and the padding of the seats are softer and thicker than many other compact SUV I've driven and sat in. So I find the seats to be very comfortable, and even the reclining portion in the back, just the right angle here, and the seats do fold down, of course. You do get built-in cup holder, which is a bit shallow here, but entry and exit is easy because door opens pretty wide. So that's pretty well in terms of exterior and interior. And once again, I'm reasonably impressed with the quality of the manufacturing. But how does that drive? Let's go for it on the road, and let me tell you how this thing is when you actually drive it. So now I'm driving the Ford Bronco Sport, and what do I think? Well, there's enough power and torque to pass cars and to drive comfortably in this busy traffic. It is also reasonably quiet, and the handling is not bad. It's not great, but it's very predictable, very simple vehicle to drive, and I found the overall feel on the road to be quite reasonable and pretty adequate, especially considering the price tag and the fact that it has a very unique design and styling that sets it apart from others. But I do admit that when you go over some bumpy road, it gets a little bit busy in terms of compliance of a transmission. So maybe the calibration and the engineering of the suspension is not quite up there in terms of what I expect as an engineer. And also I heard a little bit of a squeak and rattle on the passenger side, not too bad though. And overall it is a pretty quiet vehicle and a very predictable and a very simple car to drive. So if you're looking for something that's unique in terms of design, it's got a Ford Bronco feel to it, and especially with this one with the heritage color, well, it is definitely something that is not offered by other manufacturers. And if you're tired of sort of a generic compact SUV from many other brands and you wanted to buy something that will give you a bit of a special feel, then the Ford Bronco Sport might be the right car for you. But if you're looking for something that has the best handling in this price range, or something that will give you a really smooth and refined ride, this may not be the best choice for you. So I hope you enjoyed my video about the Ford Bronco Sport. If you haven't done so yet, would you kindly give me a thumbs up, make some comments, and perhaps you can subscribe if you haven't done so yet. But until next video, I'm signing off for now. Thank you so much.